Jennifer Bird. I'm a biblical scholar. And normally when I'm doing these videos, I'm doing something about what people think the Bible says and kind of addressing that. But tonight I was asked to, I'm actually quite touched that Derek Lambert with Myth Vision and Josh Bowen and Kip Davis asked me to offer an opinion on something that's gone down essentially between scholars. So I have linked in the description here to this video, a 6.5 minute video that it'll just be worth your time if you're interested in understanding what's going on here, okay? So what happened is a particular scholar, acclaimed Egyptologist by the name of David Falk, had a live streaming podcast about a week ago or so from when I'm recording this. And someone asked him about another scholar, Francesca Stavrakopoulou. And you can tell essentially from his comments, he was caught off guard by the question, and it seems like he actually hasn't read her stuff. And he was incredibly unprofessional, irony, if you go watch the video. And then he's also incredibly misogynistic. Okay. What ends up happening next is a third party, Dan McClellan. I haven't met any of these people, but Dan McClellan, a colleague and friend of Stavrakopoulou, essentially steps in and takes what was said in that podcast and kind of points out the places where he's out of line, inaccurate, misrepresenting, slandering, and then also being like just bizarrely misogynistic. Okay. So I was asked to comment on essentially this thing that's gone down. Okay, so go watch the video if you haven't yet, so that my comments will make sense, because I don't want to. And my cat also wants to know, right, what's going on. She's chiming in here. Okay, so there's one thing I really wanted to comment on. One thing that Dan missed, and that's fine. Is I think all of his comments are spot on. By the way, he is professional, calm, level-headed, and points out some really important things. But he missed one thing that I think is really interesting, and that is at least one thing that's really important to me. And that is that Falk makes a comment that the reason that Stavrakopoulou has been interviewed on BBC and things is she's basically one of the few theologians who isn't dusty and gray. And he says something to that effect. I'm sort of quoting him, but not entirely. So what makes me sad about that, really, is how small his world is. Because almost off the top of my head, I could name nearly 200, that's probably an exaggeration, I could name close to 100 theologians, almost off the top of my head, who are not dusty and gray. They are white, black, African-American, BIPOC of various, native peoples from various parts of the world, Australian, African, Central American, South American, Asian. I can name just so many scholars whose work is important and transformative and helpful. Women, men, non-binary folks, queer. It's kind of appalling that he gets to say something like that. All of the theologians I know do not qualify as dusty and gray. Okay, so go listen to what his comments are so you understand that, additional kind of correction to what he's saying. He just doesn't know what he's talking about. Also, he talks about what Stavrakopoulou does as liberation theology. So when you go into PhD work, you get a PhD in biblical studies in this realm, or you get a PhD in theology, or you get a PhD in ethics. So those are separate fields. So she's doing biblical studies, and it does have theological impact. Do not get me wrong. But she's not doing theology, and she's definitely not doing liberation theology, which is a whole thing. Again, he doesn't quite know what he's talking about, okay? Okay, so that's just clarifying things that he said that were actually incorrect. The bigger thing that I really wanted to talk about, and I'm going to make this as short as possible, though the rant in my head went on for at least 45 minutes, is this, okay? I would love to meet Dan McClellan and give him a big, very collegially appropriate hug. Thank you so much. I love how he stepped in and corrected and defended. You know, like, this is just what you do. Like, something inappropriate has been gone down, and I'm just not going to let that stand. Like, thank you for that. I love that. And what's great about this is it is a specific example. Someone he has learned from, someone who has invested in him, he cares about. It's a very specific connection, right? And that's why he almost seems like he's keeping the lid on, like, livid anger at a moment in his correction of Falk, okay? So I'd like you to just watch that and take in and process McClellan's frustration on her behalf. And then I'd like you to consider that the comments that he makes, that she has endured this almost every day from people even better qualified. And I'd like you to consider that those comments apply to nearly every feminist biblical scholar of whichever testament. Okay? But certainly anyone who has published a lot is trying to represent a voice alternative to male stream voices. So process that however you need to. I love the personal connection here, and because it helps to see why he is so angry about it on her behalf. And then just take that out to almost every, feminist. And feminist does not apply just to women. And then what I'd really love is for people to try to see and try to process that my other thought in response to watching Dan's defense and standing up against ignorance is he calls Falk's comments pathetic. I am guessing he very intentionally chose that word. He uses it a couple times. And here's the thing. I don't want to call it pathetic in the same way or for the same reasons that he does, because it is so common. And I don't mean just within biblical studies. I mean within the last 9,000 years. Okay? Choose your era in history and choose your place on the planet. Okay? You want a stunning example in the United States? I mean, it is stunning to me for whatever reason. Watch Iron Jawed Angels. The issue around women not getting the vote, or finally getting the vote in this country, and the reasons why they are not allowed to have the vote, and the things that are coming out of the President of the United States' mouth, and what it is that the extent that women go to, and I realize this was also racialized. It's a problem, right? But that he demeans her because she's beautiful. That means she's right. That Falk does that, demeans her because she's beautiful, and so this is all about her being beautiful and cups, like all kinds of weird. Okay, this is what men have done over the millennia. You dismiss a woman who's beautiful. That's the only reason she's getting attention. Play that thread out in every single Me Too conversation, any sort of harassment conversation that you hear about. She's working it. That I find her work atrocious, just dismissive, just utterly off the cuff dismissive, instead of actually reading it and understanding it. I can't tell you how many times I've watched it, experienced it, read about it, where men just get to dismiss, and because they have the power, they don't, right? I don't know if I'm making sense at this point. I very desperately would love for Dan's stepping up for a colleague to shine a light on how welcome to our struggle. Welcome to the reality for women over the last, choose your, I don't know, do you want to say 4,000 years? Do you want to say 10,000 years? I don't know, because it's hard to say. it's gross, it's pathetic, it's also stunningly common. And that's the thing. That's the other thing I wanted to say is what we actually get from David Falk is this gorgeous little moment where his filters are down. And so he is being painfully honest. And so you're getting to see what's kind of at the heart of kind of misogynistic dismissal and treatment of people professionally. He's being really, really honest and naming it. And so take that, and others, men and women, think it just not maybe the extreme nature, like the extremely objectifying things that he's saying, but others are thinking something on kind of a spectrum. So it's like he gave us a little gift, right? Yes, this is a thing that exists, and it's not in a little pocket. It's not just in this little, it's not just a handful of people, and it's not just men who think this way and who are lazy. Because what I see him doing there is he's lazy. He doesn't actually know the scholarship, and he's talking about it, even though a good scholar would never do that. Okay, I think that's what I wanted to say. I hope there's something helpful there. Also, if you're looking for a way to be supportive of Stavrokopoulou in this particular instance, I would suggest that you go do a reading group around the book God and Anatomy, because it's very accessible, poignant, powerful. What's not to love about that? You don't have to agree with it, but go read her work. That's the best way to kind of respond to this,